Today I'm doing a very special show because I'm going to be breaking down my ultimate crypto portfolio for 2026. These are specifically the altcoins that I think have the strongest fundamentals going into the next phase of the cycle. Today we're going to break down a bunch of alts. We're going to talk about them. We're going to look at the technicals for each altcoin. I've got plenty of setups today, and by the end of the video I think you're going to have tons of actionable alpha to be able to take away and tweak your own portfolio. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Before we start getting into the portfolio specifically, I'm going to reveal each token one by one and explain to you why it deserves a place in the portfolio. Let's zoom out for a little bit and look at the setup for Q1 next year, which I do believe is quite strong. You guys know that I've been making some content recently about why I do believe there's a strong likelihood the Bitcoin bottom is in, and there's also a strong likelihood that the first half of next year is going to be strong. This is off the back of a few macro tailwinds, one of which is the fact that the Fed's balance sheet has finally stopped contracting. We know that QT brought the Fed's balance sheet back to the same level of April 2020, and now we are going to start to see this stabilize and then eventually pave the way for an uptick with QE, but that obviously hasn't been confirmed yet. The main thing is that we are no longer getting a balance sheet reduction, which is obviously going to be a good thing for markets. Kevin Hassett said that the government shutdown had a bigger negative effect on the economy than we expected, but we're going to have a bigger rebound in the first quarter. Against that backdrop, it's a good time for the Fed to cautiously reduce rates again, and that's what I expect that they're going to do. So one of the major reasons which I highlighted last week for Bitcoin's underperformance is the fact that we did have a lot of short-term headwinds which were constricting liquidity in the economy, which were suppressing risk asset prices overall. But we should see that script beginning to flip next year, which is another reason why I'm optimistic about 2026. We also see here that the Fed may increase its purchases next year of T-bills to about $45 billion per month on Wednesday, which will also help improve liquidity conditions and bring down short-end rates. We also know we have midterms, and Trump is heavily incentivized to see markets doing well into that. Expect some shenanigans around that. And of course, we also have a new Fed chair coming into the market. And we are also seeing record US layoffs. These are the biggest US layoffs we've seen since the Great Recession, and they're on track to be the worst since the Great Depression. Now, at face value, this is a really scary headline. A lot of it is being driven by AI and other economic factors, but this also puts pressure on the Fed because they really need to continue easing in order to prop up the economy. So you'll probably continue to see rates coming down, perhaps further than people have been anticipating. So although this is obviously a negative thing for society, it's a positive thing in terms of how the Fed is likely to respond, and thus how risk assets likely respond as well. So now, with the lay of the land, I want to get into the crypto portfolio that I am building. It's not fully built yet. That's where there's nuance. I'm going to go through each token and tell you what my plan is for each coin, whether I currently hold it, whether I plan to buy it, and I'm going to give you the exact fundamentals and price levels to look at on your own charts. But before we break down the portfolio, firstly, I just want to pick 5 winners. You know that anyone that comments Noti Gang and has the post notification bell turned on has a chance to win $100. So I'm going to pick 5 people. Firstly, I want to pick Brian. Brian says, I never win anything, but I'll still support with a comment. Well, you just won something. You won $100. Big Luno, you just won $100. Christian, you just won $100. And finally, RLT Shadow, you just won $100. If you didn't win, or if you've won in the past, or if you want another chance to win, all you need to do is comment Noti Gang below and make sure you have post notifications turned on. And if you won today, make sure to email the email in the description, giveaways.mastersocialprotonmail.com, and send proof that you have notifications turned on. We'll ask you for some more verification, then send you $100. So good luck to everyone participating in each show. Without further ado, let's get straight into things. The first one's quite obvious, Bitcoin. Of course, I hold long-term Bitcoin. I was actually quite vocal about the fact that I was adding Bitcoin between 80K and 90K. Those buys are now marginally up, which is nice, but I think this is going to be a slower burn. I do expect, however, Bitcoin to perform well at some point next year. We are starting to see on the lower timeframes an uptrend beginning to form. Of course, we still have significant resistance at the 95 to 97K zone, which I highlighted on my last show. You still have to be aware of that, but this is the first set of constructive price action that we've seen from Bitcoin in quite a long time, which is good. I'm going to go quickly because there's way more fun stuff down the list, And maybe Bitcoin's boring for some of you because I've talked about it so much over the past few weeks. But of course, it still needs to be a staple of my portfolio. And it's obviously my biggest holding in the market. The next one is Ethereum. Now, I don't hold a lot of Ethereum right now, but we are starting to see an ETHBTC breakout, which is compelling me to think that, okay, maybe over the shorter term, ETH should outperform Bitcoin. As I discussed with Fabian on our regular Friday slot, we are seeing pretty aggressive DAT accumulation, at least relative to Bitcoin in terms of ETH supply, which is propping it up. We probably have less overhang from the DATs as well on the Ethereum side than the Bitcoin side. And all of this is culminating in a chart that looks quite bullish on the ETH-BTC pair. Just keep in mind that I still think Bitcoin outperforms from now until the end of 2026, but I do think there could be a period where ETH actually outperforms. So you can rotate accordingly, according to this chart, or you can trade ETH on the USD chart, but I think it's still worth either a place in your portfolio or as an asset is worthwhile trading. Moving on to number 3 is Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid is one of the most profitable tokens in crypto history. It does $1 billion in annualized fees. Even though perps aren't really hot at the moment, it's still trading extremely well and overall has increased its fee generation over time. And in terms of altcoins that have active revenue and buybacks, it definitely is very close to the top of the list, and you will notice a trend. As we get further down the list, you'll realize that a lot of the coins I've included here are the revenue generating protocols. And that's because I'm mostly focusing on solid fundamental revenue plays right now until specific narratives arise. Look, in March, April, May next year, there could be a huge robotics narrative that we jump off the back of. RWA could get super hot and we, jump into that. We could see something else happen and, that could open up trading opportunities. But this portfolio is a bit more structural. It's the core portfolio that constitutes the strongest coins that have strong fundamentals in the market. And then, of course, you can barbell like 80-20 and have 20% of your portfolio, which you trade with, which you are a bit more risk on with, which you chop in and out with, but this is more of the structural part of the portfolio. I'm also not recommending you hold all 17 tokens. I don't hold all 17 tokens. I actually think holding 5 to 10 is the perfect in this environment, but I wanted to give you a few options and a few charts because everyone's bullish on different things, right? And I don't think you need to lock in to a specific portfolio. You want to pick the coins that you're the most bullish on. So Hyperliquid is very strong. The only thing that I don't like about it right now is the fact it's in a downtrend. You can see this regression channel here. So I do think there's a strong chance it goes and fills the wick. That was the bottom of the wick on the 10-10 liquidation event. If that does happen, I would step in as a buyer. I haven't bought yet. Contrarily, I would be looking for a reclaim of the 35 level. So either we go to this level or we reclaim this level. Those could be the entry triggers for me where I actually have some risk management on a position rather than trying to catch a knife on hype right now. But of course, you can buy and hold and balance the probabilities if you're bullish on hype, and given where the overall DEX space is going, it should be able to increase its revenues over time. Obviously, nothing in crypto is guaranteed. Of course, this video also isn't financial advice, but the trajectory for hype has been strong and it's something to pay attention to. The next one off the back of hype that I thought I'd mention today is ASTER. ASTER actually tops Hyperliquid in terms of volume right now, and it comes just after Lighter. So I do like all three of these protocols, obviously ASTER being heavily supported by Binance, and CZ popularized it. So it couldn't be a DEX list without including ASTER in the list, mostly because A, it's doing more revenue than Hyperliquid, and B, they're closely affiliated with Binance, who are obviously a really, really strong player in the market. From a technical perspective, it's actually at support. Support is between 84 cents and 91 cents. You have a bit of a psychological level to get over at $1, but I think it's a decent one with inval below, but you would have to be willing to invalidate maybe in the 70s, so that is a pretty wide stopgap. So obviously this isn't a leverage trade that I'll be taking, but I did add a small amount of ASTER, and I'll continue to monitor it, but it is in my portfolio currently because I think it is a token that is set up well from a revenue perspective. There should be more airdrops, etc. over time as well. All right, going to the next token. This is one that was really hot recently and has actually cooled off. So if you missed the first wave, this could be an opportunity to get in. And it's ZEC or Zcash. I do think the narrative here is still really strong. It's basically the private version of Bitcoin if you want to distill it. I think privacy is a big narrative that we are now starting to see crop up. People care about it more, and it's certainly going to be a talking point in the political sphere over the coming years. So Zcash is the leading privacy token, so without having to go too far down the risk curve, you get exposure to that narrative. It did run up really aggressively, but just like all narrative trades, they often do end up dying. at some point, and obviously now it's in an accumulation phase. It's giving me a bit of confidence given the fact that we are seeing higher lows, but you would need to flip the low here at 425 and also the money noodle, which it really held pretty strongly on the way up in order to assert a reversal from an uptrend, now a downtrend into an uptrend again. So keep your eye on Zcash. I think there could be a decent play here over the longer term. It's a token that longer term, I do like the thesis, but you also have to be cognizant of how the chart looks right now. I got invalidated on part of my position here. I bought some back down here, which I talked about on the show last week. I'm probably going to sell a little bit into resistance here, and if we flip, add a little bit more. So basically, the way I'm trading is I want to have exposure to this long term, but I don't want to get caught holding the bag in the short term. So that's why I implement technicals alongside fundamentals as well. And personally, I found that to be the best way to trade in the crypto market. Purely technicals aren't the best in my opinion because you don't have full fundamental scope over what's happening, what the catalysts are, what the revenue is. That can often override technicals, but pure fundamentals as well don't give you a chance to manage risk. So it's always good to tie both in, and today we're going to be focusing mostly on the high time frame charts. All right, the next one is BNB. I don't hold any BNB right now, but I think it is a decent one if you wanted to hold it, considering the fact last time Bitcoin had a big pump, BNB outperformed on a relative strength basis the entire cycle, and over the last month it's also been extremely strong, one of the strongest tokens in this list since the decline on 1010, but most tokens declined, and you can see it's still above the weekly noodle here, consolidating nicely in a bullish formation. So not much more needs to be said there. I'd be comfortable holding in my portfolio. Personally, I don't see huge risk reward for me to be like super long BNB right now, but it is one that I'm trading, and one that if you held, I certainly wouldn't blame you, considering Binance is one of the most profitable businesses in crypto and BNB is their main token. Moving on from BNB is Solana. This is one that I recently added at the support zone here. I'm looking for a swing trade. I don't know if we're going to swing, straight back up to the highs, but this is a range until proven otherwise. So this would be the buy level for Solana. Solana's obviously got extremely strong product market fit. It's got some really strong catalysts heading into next year as well. Lots of network upgrades happening, lots of developer activity. It's just an ecosystem that I want to be behind, and is certainly one that I pay a lot of attention to. So I like Solana as a play, and not much more needs to be said on that. All right, now we're going down the list a little bit into some of the more risky plays. Not super risky, but because this video is more about the core portfolio, not the moonshot plays. But we're certainly going to throw around some more left of field ideas today as well. Going on from the Solana discussion, Pump is another one that makes my list. Pump, I do think is a good one just due to the sheer revenue that it generates. Now, even though it's not as high as the meme season, it's actually held up fairly well. Like, it's still doing a decent chunk of revenue every single day. And we actually saw that the buybacks today ticked over 200 million, which equals 13.5% of the circulating supply now offset. And Pump also over the past day has done higher revenue than Hype, TRX, and Aave. So it is still a very, very profitable chain. There has been a bit of chatter online about, whether they should be doing buybacks, whether they're wasting their ammunition, but the chart is starting to set up quite nicely for a trade. So you can see here, you've got the lows between 2.3 and 2.5. You've got a breakout happening. There's lots of, I think, lower time frame trading opportunities on it. From a high time frame perspective, this red zone, if you get another chance to accumulate, is the zone. If not, you can hold and have inval below. So I do like the setup overall. I'm not really a huge fan of diagonal trends. I'm more paying attention to the horizontal trends on most coins, but the fact you are seeing a breakout does give you a little bit of encouragement that maybe the trend would be shifting, but you would need to get above this local high and the noodle and have a flip to look at gapping up to the next level at 0.5, and that's going to take quite a big move in the market, but it's still worth paying attention to. So I think Pump is a decent one if you want something to hold that is related to the Solana ecosystem, but also has really strong fundamentals heading into the next period of the cycle. The next one is Link, also a token with strong fundamentals. It's always had really strong fundamentals, but I feel like in the institutional cycle which we're in, with the demand that we're seeing for real world assets, with the amount of assets that are now being tokenized on chain, Link is in a really strong spot as the biggest oracle and I think necessary infrastructure to push crypto forward into the world that we're heading in. So I think it's a relatively, in my opinion, lower risk play. Obviously nothing in crypto is like low risk or has zero risk, but it's lower risk compared to a lot of other tokens in the market due to the fact it has a big community, it's been around for years, and it's heavily involved with where crypto is going. I'm on the log chart right now, but I do like it because it is a pretty clear trend that I've been trading for quite some time. When you get to the channel low, this could represent a buying opportunity. When you get to the channel high, it's TP until proven otherwise. So there is a bit of a setup on Link right now. If you want to turn log off and just hide my charts for a second, you could see that it is just ranging and your lows are technically in this zone here at the $10 level. So those are the two things I'm going to be playing off the channel. And the lows, Link is a token that I hold. I'm not adding more in this zone personally, but the chart setups are there if you would like to do so. Going to number 10 now is ENA. ENA is another token that I've just added a little bit of recently alongside Solana because we are at a key support level. I want to see a bit of a reaction here, but I do have inval below in case it doesn't pan out, and then I'm happy to re-enter on a reclaim. You'll notice I speak a lot about invalidation on the channel. It's just a simple way that I can have a fundamental thesis but be able to execute with technicals. So I can play off key levels on the chart, and if we start bleeding below, if I don't like the price reaction to that level, I can cut the position or part of the position and wait for a reclaim so I'm not, catching a falling knife if the market does turn against us, because even though I think the setup for Bitcoin is quite strong, you never know what's going to happen. So at this stage in the cycle, you still need to implement a little bit of risk management. But ENA is still very profitable, obviously performs better in a strong funding environment. That's not something we're seeing now with a strong appetite of the market to long, but it's still one that I think is worth factoring into your plans. And it's definitely one worth trading because it's been a very highly traded token over the past couple of years and typically has big pumps when it does choose to move. So, you can see this pretty well evidenced by what happened just a couple of months ago with ENA running off the back of the ETH narrative. The next one is Arrow. Now, Arrow is interesting because it runs off the back of the Coinbase narrative. It's the, main proxy for Base before Base has a token. It's the main DEX. It captures a lot of the swap volume. It does 128 million fees annualized. It has very strong tokenomics and is actually one that I added recently at this level as well. It's been chopping around the level, so I haven't gotten invalidated yet, but I also haven't bought more. So I'm just eyeing it. If it does start to bleed out a little bit and look weak, maybe I would cut because this is a big pivot point on the chart. But fundamentally, it's one that I don't want to chop around too much because I do want to be holding this into next year. So that's what the chart looks like. The fundamentals are obviously really strong. And let's move on to the next coin here, which is Mantle. So just like the BNB narrative, with Binance being such a big player in the market, Mantle comes in as the main token for the Bybit exchange, which is the second biggest exchange in the crypto market, obviously excluding Coinbase, because these are exchanges with obviously a lot more perp volume. If you've ever traded on Bybit, you'll know that having the Mantle token comes with a host of benefits, like whether you're staking the token to get access to launch pool coins, or whether you're trying to up to higher VIP levels or get fee cashbacks and all this sort of stuff. They've basically incorporated the MAT token into to basically make it, without being official, like the de facto exchange token. So that is a really strong tailwind, alongside the fact that the ecosystem has developed quite strongly. Now, it had a massive run up. It was one of the most crazy runners in October, but it has suffered a little bit over the past couple of months, reflexively also coming to the downside as volumes dried up a little bit. It was also quite, I think, of like an illiquid pump during that time as well, which I think made it go a lot higher than I even thought it would go. But now we're coming back down to a pretty key psychological level. We dipped below $1. We just started to reclaim, and you also have the daily noodle, which was basically the support on the entire way up, flipped from bullish to bearish, now being retested for the first time since October. So if we do get a flip of this level, this could actually be a setup to squeeze up to the 150 zone. Mantle is a token that I hold. It's also a token that I am trading as well. Moving on to the next token is Yield Basis. This has been one of my best trades in a long time. I managed to get a really, really nice entry down here at the 4.2 zone. I did post about this in Discord at the time. If we want to go back to my post, I said something I mentioned in the AMA, just bought some yield basis. Fundamentals are very strong. There are some short-term catalysts which warrant a bounce from this zone. They were doing some fee distributions. You can see I posted that at 4.1, and at one point it went, I think, to 6.7, but right now it's sitting around 55. It's up 230% for me on perps. I've closed half my perp position, but I'm still holding my entire spot position because I actually think longer term yield basis is quite undervalued. Without getting into too many of the technical details in today's video, there are some very, very strong flywheels with the token, and it's one of the strongest revenue generating tokens in the market. It's strongly affiliated with Curve, and it's actually, I think, one of the more undervalued DeFi tokens in crypto as well, which is why I'm holding it. It's actually one of my bigger DeFi holdings at the moment, and also it's been a very good token to trade too. So wouldn't be surprised if it does clear the initial launch day high at some point. Very, very happy I was able to take the trade in the Discord, but I think there's more to come. You just want to be patient and buy on dips just like you would with any altcoin. All right, now we've got the final 4 here. The next one is Fluid. I'm not currently in a Fluid position because I really don't like the price action. You can see, similar to Hype, it's in a downtrend, like another regression channel. If we did get a flip, though, of $4, this could be a very interesting play to look at targeting the next TP zone at 550. Fundamentally, it's very, very strong. I just don't like the technicals. And I think in a market like this, I want my technicals to align with my fundamentals. I don't think it's a market where you can just buy stuff and blindly hold, because you need levels to invalidate. You need risk-reward parameters on your trades. So that's why I'm being a little bit stricter at this stage in the cycle. And a token like this, even though I'm bullish, I'm not actively buying, even though it is one that I would consider for my midterm portfolio if I did get a solid entry on it. PENDLE is another one that I recently added. I also shared this in the Discord. I think it has really strong fundamentals. So between 170 and 230 has been a strong historic buy zone. This is pretty much dating back to the beginning of 2024. We've typically seen moves, from this zone to the highs 280. Again, we saw a move of 270. Again, we saw a move of 220. So if history is going to repeat, we could see another move, even if it takes some time to develop. Like even here, it took from January 25 to April, so it took 4 months to develop. Here, it's only really been a month and a half, so it can take a bit more time, but once this bottom forms, it can act as a nice base for another push to the upside on PENDLE. And the fundamentals are very strong. Once again, won't bore you with all of the data, but I think what you need to know is that the tokenomics are really well thought through. There aren't high emissions. There is a strong flywheel with buybacks. And if you want to learn more, you should check out Mesh's tweet. Just search Mesh, PENDLE, and it's going to come up and you can read through it. It's a very, very good tweet which shows why it's such a strong ecosystem. If you want access to asset tokenization, RWA, it's very, 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 very smart. The way that they've designed the protocol, and is always a token when I get opportunities, I like to accumulate because it's been so tried and true for the last couple of years for me. So I like PENDLE a lot. Going into the next token, the penultimate token of today's video, and then I've got a tip at the end of the video that I want to share with you if you don't want to pick tokens, because not all of you are going to want to pick these. You're just going to want more of a plug and play approach, and that's fine too. So the second last token is Sui. Sui's one that I cut when it broke down from 190, and it saved me a bit of pain as it went to 130. I would consider on a reclaim of $2 adding. I think Sui, like after Solana, is one of the more interesting L1s. Obviously, Raoul Pal is a big supporter as well. The dev ecosystem is fairly strong. So I like it fundamentally, but I'm not in love with it. I don't like it as much as Solana. I don't like it as much as the other tokens in today's video, but I still think it's worth considering. Once again, as I said, not every token I hold from today's video, but I wanted to present you with some options. And if you were looking for an L1, I don't hate the idea of adding Sui to my portfolio. And then the final token before I get into another approach or an alternative approach you can look at is Tau. Tau is the biggest AI token in the market, and it's kind of a frustrating one, to be honest, because it basically just chops. Like since the start of Jan, it has this huge range. Like the range swing from low to high is 220%, which is absolutely crazy. Obviously, it had that big pre-halving run-up. Now, as we head into the halving, it is coming back down. So it was basically buy the rumor, sell the news. But if you can get an entry at the 230 level, this has historically been a really strong zone to look at entries on Tau. So I would be a bit picky. If not, I would wait for a confirmed flip above. But because it's so choppy and hard to trade, I don't love the Tau token right now, just be completely honest. But if it does go down to this level and we have a good reaction, I would be a buyer, considering it's the biggest AI token in the market. I think there are plenty of other AI tokens in the market, which we're not discussing today, that will outperform if there's an AI season, but it's too early to preempt. We don't know exactly when that's going to happen. When it does happen, is it going to be agents? Is it going to be payment protocols? I want to be a little bit adaptive there and be nimble and be able to act when that narrative arises. But Tau is a banker that whenever AI runs, it typically does pretty well. Now, to end the video, because I've given you 17 tokens here, I just want to suggest an alternative approach. Like if you do not want to pick tokens, because that's completely fair enough, but you want exposure to the altcoin market that isn't just Bitcoin, you can actually buy indexes. Not many people know this, but there's something called the Coin Market Cap 100 Index, which is powered by Reserve, and it actually automatically weights all of the top tokens for you. Now, obviously, you lose a little bit of control around the exact tokens you want to hold, but you gain exposure to the whole index if the index goes up as a whole. So it's currently weighted 65% Bitcoin, 13% Ethereum, 4.5% XRP, 4.5% BNB, 2.78% Sol, and it weights. So if a token comes from outside the top 100 into the top 100, you would get exposure to it, and it's weighted based on market cap. So because it's mostly Bitcoin, it's going to track Bitcoin, but it's going to give you slightly higher beta exposure without you having to take on like a leveraged Bitcoin position and pay funding and have liquidation risk, or take on options, which comes with its own set of risks. So I think this is a good alternative for people that just want a set and forget approach. Like if you're bullish on crypto heading into next year, you don't want to research any of the stuff that I discussed today, it's definitely a valid option. I understand not everyone has a bunch of time. If you want to go even crazier on reserve, they do have some other indexes as well, which you can look at across different vehicles in the market, like DeFi, like majors, like L1s that you can look into if you want exposure to some broader things. Something else that's very interesting that I don't see many people talking about too are the yield DTFs. So these are the digital funds that you can invest into that capture yield. So you can get exposure to ETH staking rewards, you can get exposure to stablecoin staking rewards, and you could do it through the pools here. So that can be an option to diversify and just earn a little bit of income too. But clearly the main one and what Reserve's most known for is the CMC 100 index. So I just wanted to suggest it because it has pretty much followed Bitcoin. And when altcoins do really well, it typically really outperforms Bitcoin. Obviously, it's a bit reflexive to the downside, but because of its high Bitcoin weighting, it's not that reflexive to the downside. So that is my altcoin portfolio. It's not a full curated portfolio, but I think if you picked a mixture of any of these tokens, you would probably end up outperforming the market. But that's just obviously in my opinion. It's not financial advice because I don't have a crystal ball in the market, but I do think these are the tokens that exhibit the strongest fundamentals for me. There may be some stuff I've missed. There are many other tokens in the market. There are other tokens I'm bullish on which aren't in this video. There are some tokens I hold which aren't in this video, but it doesn't really align with the narrative of this video, which is strong revenue generating protocols, strong product market fit, and generally strong charts. Other stuff I think will factor in when the time is right. And clearly you can barbell your portfolio like 80-20 or 70-30 and give yourself some leeway to trade when the market is conducive to trading. So if you did enjoy this video, comment Noti Gang below and hit the post notification bell and you'll be in the running to win $100 in tomorrow's video. We'll be revealing that. Remember, we have daily uploads throughout the week, Monday to Friday. Hope you guys enjoy. Got some good content lined up for you this week. I will see you in the next one as usual. Peace out.